Good? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Rue Landau, Executive Director of the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations, the city agency that administers and enforces the Fair Practices Ordinance, the law protecting people from unlawful discrimination in employment, housing, and places of public accommodation, including the delivery of city services. We also work in the communities to help reduce conflict and bring people together to advance community relations. I'm happy to have two of our commissioners here today, and we are blessed to be here for this moment and these very important bill signings. Today, the mayor will be signing two bills into law that enhance the city's efforts to combat discrimination and acts of hate. A special thank you to Council People Green and Johnson for spearheading these efforts, and to Mayor Kenny for his continued leadership and support. The first bill amends the city's ethnic intimidation and institutional vandalism ordinance to expand the scope and punishment for vandalism motivated by hate. The bill specifies property that is included under the term institution, such as headstones and grave markers, and increases the penalties for violations. Councilman Johnson introduced this legislation in response to the desecration of headstones at two Jewish cemeteries in the city. I happen to have family buried at both of the cemeteries that were vandalized, and I was relieved to learn that their gravestones, especially that of my beloved grandmother, were untouched, but I still grieve for those whose families were affected. The second bill authorizes the Commission to order a business to cease operations for a period of time when the Commission has found that the business has engaged in severe or repeated violations of the Fair Practices Ordinance. This remedy is squarely in line with the enforcement mechanisms already vested with the Commission in the Fair Practices Ordinance, and it is expected that the PCHR would only use this authority under egregious circumstances. Councilman Green introduced this legislation after attending the PCHR's public educational hearing to address community reports of racial tension and discrimination within Philadelphia's LGBTQ community. Following the hearing, we issued a report with findings and recommendations that included training on the FPO and implicit bias training for many establishments. On the legislative side, Councilman Green recognized a gap in our city ordinance and acted to fill it. Both these bills strike at the core of the work the PCHR does every day. We know too well that racism, discrimination, and targeted acts of hate against institutions have widespread effects on the victims of these acts, as well as the larger communities, since they hit at people's personal, cultural, ethnic, and religious identities. They also send ripple effects of fear throughout communities and neighborhoods surrounding the sites. Sadly, Philadelphia, like other cities across the country, has seen an increase in hate crimes and bias incidents since the presidential election in November 2016. While we know that creating laws will not stop these acts, they send a strong message to the public that Philadelphia will not tolerate this kind of behavior, and committing these harmful acts has consequences. In the meantime, the PCHR will continue to actively investigate and adjudicate cases of discrimination. And along with our partners inside the city government and outside, will we continue to help people heal, create spaces for dialogue, and bring people together to strengthen communities. At this time, I'd like to call up Councilman Johnson for a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of my colleague, Councilman Derek Green, for his work here today. Give him a round of applause, please. And our CEO of the City of Philadelphia, my former professor, my former colleague in City Council, but most importantly, my friend, Mayor Jim Kenny. Give him a round of applause as well. You know, for me, this is a humbling experience to have the opportunity to be here today with the actual pen signing of bringing to law a bill that's specifically focusing on addressing the issue of hate and discrimination here in the city of Philadelphia. When more than 50 headstones were desecrated at the Mount Carmel cemetery in Northeast Philadelphia, my staff and I wasted no time to find ways that we can send a clear message and a clear signal to those cowards who engaged in the act that this will not be tolerated in this particular city. And so I'm just happy to have the opportunity to be a part of this particular process. But, you know, you've heard our mayor talk about this in the past. I come from a spirit of activism in my own family that under our watch, no acts of crimes against any individuals will be tolerated. And I want to acknowledge some individuals, particularly from the Jewish faith, who are here supporting this effort. And I want to ask for them to stand when I please say their name. Will A.D. Lewis Klein from the Jewish Federation of Greater Philadelphia please stand? Adam Kester from the Jewish Federation of Philadelphia please stand. Rabbi Yosef Goldman, Temple Beth Zion, Beth Israel, please stand. Rabbi Joshua Waxman, Congregation Congregation Or Hadash. And the Philadelphia Board of Rabbis, please stand. Michael Alexander, Director of Regional Affairs, Consulate of the General of Israel in New York. And my own rabbi, Rabbi Solomon Isaacson, CBS Community Center in Synagogue. I want to give him a round of applause as well. Listen, I thank them for being here, particularly we're a human race, you know, and I'm one to believe that, you know, when I go out and do my work throughout my district, I believe that a diverse community is a strong community, a diverse city is a strong city, and we are all one. And so today we stand in solidarity as a city against all forms of hate against any individuals in the city. I just want to thank you for being here, and thank you for joining me during this pen signing. Thank you very much.
Next up is our Director of LGBT Affairs, Amber Hikes.
Thank you, Rue. At its best, this is what effective governing looks like. Identifying an issue that's affecting your constituents, listening to their experiences, and developing policy to protect them and improve the quality of their lives moving forward. The best policy says to its constituents, we see you, we hear you, and we're ready to roll up our sleeves and get to work. Thank you, Councilman Green, City Council, Mayor Kinney, and Councilman Johnson for doing just that. Exactly 2 weeks ago, we raised a beautiful new rainbow flag here at City Hall with black and brown stripes, a symbolic representation of this city's commitment to substantive change in the LGBTQ community. That symbol and that promise ignited a national and then international conversation about race and racism in the LGBTQ community. I couldn't be prouder of this city and its residents for pioneering a long overdue conversation, elevating the voices and experiences of our most marginalized community members. But symbolism without substance is meaningless. That new flag was a promise from this city of substantive changes to come, and this bill is one of those substantive changes. So let it be clear from this point forward, businesses that violate this ordinance will not pass under the radar as they continue unlawful business practices. Our mayor, city council, the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations, and the Office of LGBT Affairs stand firmly with the rights of Philadelphians to contribute to our city free of discrimination. Plainly put, Philly, your city government has got your back. We should all be able to explore, enjoy, and thrive in this beautiful city regardless of what we wear, who we love, and how we look. City Council's unanimous vote on this ordinance is a signal to all, but especially to our businesses in the LGBTQ community. Change is here, progress will not be stopped, and greater inclusion and diversity are the future of this city. The Philadelphia Office of LGBT Affairs wholeheartedly supports Councilman Green's bill and any measures to protect, affirm, and support all LGBTQ Philadelphians from discrimination. Thank you, Councilman Green, for your leadership on this issue, as well as Mayor Kinney and Councilman Johnson and members of City Council. To the Philadelphia LGBTQ community, we see you, we hear you, and we're rolling up our sleeves to get to work. It's now my honor to bring Councilman Green, a friend and fierce ally of the LGBT community, to the podium.
Good afternoon. It's truly an honor to be here today for both of these bill signings. This really sends a strong message of what we here in the city of Philadelphia really try to pride ourselves on, that we do not tolerate discrimination in any means in this city, regardless of its ethnic intimidation or racial intimidation or discrimination, that we do not tolerate that in any way at all. And when you have an executive branch and legislative branch coming together collectively to fight for these type of issues, it really makes me proud to be a Philadelphian and to be a member of the City Council of the City of Philadelphia. I want to thank our Executive Director of the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations, Rue Landau. Let's give her a hand. I want to thank Councilman Johnson, not only for supporting this legislation, but also being a leader in his own right regarding discrimination in the city of Philadelphia, his leadership, so thank you. I want to thank our dynamic new Executive Director, Amber Hikes, who's hit the ground running and is charged forward and providing leadership for all of us in the work that she does every day. I want to thank our mayor, Jim Kenney, and for those of you who may not recall, when he was a member of council, he was involved in this issue in reference to discrimination and being at the forefront from this domestic partnership legislation and being a real advocate to all people, all backgrounds, regardless of your orientation and how you express yourself. So thank you, Mayor Kenney. And then I also want to just finally thank the activists who really kept this issue on the forefront, from the Black and Brown Workers Collective, to Ernest Owens, and to those who are really letting us know about this issue and not allowing it to die. Sometimes we need additional push to keep these issues on the forefront, and they have done that, and they will continue to do that. And then just finally, I just want to let us remember of all the people who fought for these issues over the years, some of them who are no longer with us. Philadelphia has come a long way, and although today signing this bill sends a strong message about the type of city we are, we still have much more to do, so we cannot rest on our laurels. I want to thank all of you for your work and your effort and support today, those who are no longer with us, who were at the forefront of this issue, all the advocates who are here, and we continue to press on to make sure that we do not have discrimination from either ethnic perspective or orientation or racial perspective here in the city of Philadelphia. So thank you.
And finally, I'd like to bring up Mayor Jim Kinney.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, rabbis, nice to see you. Thank you. Both of these bills stem from troubling incidents that have occurred in the city over the last year. But that also reflects a persistent and greater challenge that our country faces, which is respecting our diversity and recognizing the history and present instances of discrimination and hate that people of color, LGBTQ individuals, ethnic minorities, women, and many others. I'm glad to sign these two important bills today, as they both confirm that this city will not tolerate discrimination and will use any tools necessary to combat it, to ensure that Philadelphia is a safe and equitable place for everyone to live, work, and to visit. Make no mistake, we still have a long way to go. The struggle will continue, but I know that when we work together, we can accomplish anything. I'd like to thank Rue Landau and the Commission at the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations for their constant work in providing a voice for the voiceless. Also, many thanks to Amber Hikes for leading the Office of LGBT Affairs during these times and leading these tough conversations here at home and across the country. I just want to say, in a short period of time, and it came clear to me at the flag raising, there were many, many people, many groups that would never come close to that flag raising, that were there were participating and felt respected, and I want to thank you for that. In a short period of time, you made a huge difference in this community. Finally, I'm grateful for the thoughtful leadership of Councilman Green and Councilman Johnson and their work to protect all Philadelphians from hate and discrimination. I want to thank you to all the members of the community, advocates and activists who continue to hold us accountable. This is particularly important in this environment that we're in, because in many ways, sad to say, our president is almost giving permission for a lot of this activity to happen. And folks that were not, who would hide in the barn or hide in the basement, who didn't have the courage to come out. But his words, his actions, his campaign, all have allowed these folks to surface and to come out publicly and think that they're acting like real Americans. And I think that that is really one of the saddest parts of this administration to date, is that it's empowered people to hate. We as cities need to continue to push back. We are the centers of diversity. We're the centers of inclusion. We will continue to be that. And I'll hearken back, and I've done it a lot lately, and I probably shouldn't have to do it as much as I do, but I will hearken back to my own ethnic experience in America, which was not a pleasant one, and it was all based on religion. They said that the Pope was going to ruin America, and they told us to get out of here, and they burned 2 of our churches down, and they wouldn't allow us to apply for jobs or live where we wanted to live. And I think too many people of hyphenated Americans who have been here for generations have forgotten the discriminatory history of their own people here. As I've always said, African Americans have a special beef with this country that we'll probably never be able to live up to the atrocities that were committed upon that group of folks or Native Americans. But everybody else came here because it was the place to come to get relief. It was the place to come to have freedom. It was the place to come to eat, to have food. It was the place to come not to be discriminated against. And too many of our hyphenated American ethnicities, because they've been here 2, 3, 4 generations, have forgotten the struggles of their own people. So I try to put my Irish Catholic, Irish American face on Mexicans, on LGBT people, on Central Americans, on people from Africa, on Jewish Americans, and remember that we were all discriminated against in some form or another, but we overcame it. And this country cannot march backwards into the past. It just cannot march backwards when synagogues are defiled, or pigs' heads are thrown at mosques, or gravestones are overturned. Those things are just unacceptable, and I'm glad that we all will stick together. I think in the end we'll all be stronger for it. When we come out of this morass that we're in right now, at some point in time, we'll come out of that tunnel and back into the light, and hopefully we'll be a better country for it. So I think it's time for me to sign these. Great. Thank you very much. Please. First, this is Councilman Green's bill, which is bill number 170204. I will not hold it up like President Trump. Thank you. And this is Councilman, wait a minute, did I sign everything I had to sign? Yep. This is Councilman Johnson's bill, which is bill number, it's also 170, I'm a little, 204. Hopefully, we'll all be a little better off because of this. Rabbi, thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, sure. Yep, we'll do.
We'll get one photograph with Jewish people.
Should I sit?